Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Katie Wilson bombs her State of the City address because, well, she's never had a real job before. But before we get to any of this, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Something weird has been happening this session in Olympia. And it started last session, but this time it's more pronounced. And I'm talking to people behind the scenes, and it's getting infinitely worse. It used to be occasionally a Democrat would work with a Republican. Occasionally a Democrat would defect on something and vote against what all the other Democrats were doing. But not this year. Not this year. When I was down in Olympia and I was talking to various lawmakers, things kept happening that day that were odd when we were checking out some of the hearing rooms. A Democrat would say they didn't support a certain bill pushed by other Democrats. Then all of a sudden, they'd call an executive session. Quick, we got to go meet in private. And then the Democrat would re-enter the room. Head kind of slumped, shoulders kind of slumped, and then vote with the rest of them. And the big takeaway is that the Democrats are threatening members of their own party. If you don't vote for us, there's going to be political ramifications. This is very much like The Godfather, don't you think? Don't ever take sides against the family, ever again, or else. You all know what I'm talking about, right? We've all seen the movie. Second one, not first one. So what's going on? It's basically the Democrats are insisting, blind loyalty, no exception whatsoever, or else they're going to challenge you. Now, a little inside baseball for you. There's a bill that I've been very passionate about trying to defeat. It doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. But what happened yesterday, while I was on air, should indicate how crazy this is. I am picking this as a microcosm because right now we keep seeing these headlines. Oh, Bob Ferguson doesn't like the income tax as it is. Oh, this Democrat may vote against the income tax. That Democrat may vote against the income tax. Not going to happen. Last year, Bob Ferguson was spewing the same BS. And what happened? All of a sudden, the Democrats started targeting his office, targeting his employees, saying, hey, yeah, you guys don't get to wander around the floor of our chamber anymore. We're not going to do that. They were doing this last year. They're still doing it now. For those of you holding out hope, thinking, oh, maybe some Democrats will vote against the income tax, ain't gonna happen. Not going to happen at all. Maybe one or two who are in competitive races. They might let them do it just to try and keep their seats. But no, this thing is going forward. Now, this bill that I'm passionate about has nothing to do with you, but it shows what's going on. So bear with me for a minute here. Senate Joint Memorial 8014. What is it? The Democrats know that there was a girl who was killed by the Israeli Defense Forces who went to University of Washington. That sounds really bad on its own, right? Now, what if I told you this Turkish-American girl was a pro-Hamas activist involved with the Gaza encampment at University of Washington who decided to spend her summer break flying out to the West Bank to riot against Israel in a terrorist stronghold called Jenin, while the IDF is conducting counterterrorism operations, and she gets shot by accident because she's standing next to one of the lead instigators because they love using human shields. Now you see that a little bit more. Okay, terrible tragedy. Full investigation because an American gets killed. And Israel says, yeah, we did it. We're sorry. Well, what happens? You have these Democrats led by Rebecca Saldana, a far lefty who is just an absolute nightmare in terms of policy in the Washington state legislature, now want to ask President Trump and the U.S. Congress to do a full investigation into her death because they don't trust the investigation that happened before. I went down to Olympia to testify against this bill. Why? Because when I went down there, I was testifying about Chaim Katzman. Chaim Katzman went to University of Washington. He was a grad student who then went to Israel. On October 7th, Hamas raided the kibbutz he was living in, and he used his body to shield a woman and her children, and he was killed by Hamas terrorists. And yet they weren't calling for an investigation. The Democrats weren't calling an investigation into his death, just hers. And when I reached out to Saldana's office and I said, hey, why aren't you calling in for an investigation into his death? The answer that was given by Yasmin Trudeau, who is a Hamas-supporting lunatic lefty, she said, well, his death has been fully investigated. Guess what? The Israeli Defense Forces investigated both deaths. So you accept one and not accept the other. I didn't go down there to stop them from calling for an investigation into the woman's death. I went down there to say, if you're calling for an investigation into one, shouldn't you call for an investigation into both? Well, what happens? There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and it was pretty awful how the Democrats were doing everything they could not to mention Chaim Katzman. I do want to mention also is that Chaim Katzman was a pretty far left kind of guy, it seems like, a real peacenik. He probably would not have liked my show. He has family members that go to my synagogue, so I took this a little personally and wanted to just see if I could get justice for this kid who was killed by terrorists. Well, a lot of behind-the-scenes kind of stuff going on. And in fact, some of the Republicans went to the Democrats and said, hey, guys, your language is a little severe on this bill. Can we dial it back? Because basically, you're accusing Israel of killing this woman when it's all alleged at this point. And you guys are making a whole bunch of ridiculous allegations. And hey, you know what? If you want us to support this, we're not going to support it when it's doing this. Okay, fine. So what happens? You have 5 Democrats on the committee and 4 Republicans on the committee. One of them is a Jewish guy. One of the Democrats is a Jewish guy named Jesse Solomon. Jesse Solomon is basically an empty suit in the Washington state legislature. He's a guy who you don't know his name because he doesn't do that much. But he's the only Jew on this committee, and he's one of the few Jews in the Senate. This is a guy who likes saying, oh, I do so much for the Jewish community. I do so much for the Jewish community, and I can't name one thing he's ever actually done. So, anywho, Jesse Solomon is a senator, Democrat senator, and he could have been the swing vote to stop this thing from going out of committee, but he didn't. Now, yesterday, during my show, I knew that the vote was going forward on the Senate floor about this. And afterwards, while I'm on air, my phone is blowing up, ringing from Senator Solomon. By the way, note for next time, say you're off record when you're talking to me, because I am a journalist, and if you don't say you're off record, guess what? It makes it to air. So I texted back to him, I'm on air right now. He wrote, hey, Ari, this is Senator Jesse Solomon. Wanted to touch base with you. Senator Wagner was the most considerate person in the Senate on the resolution. Vote. I don't know what I will be able to explain, but please know that. He was taken by surprise and was going to cue off my speech. But it was not a speech I was able to make due to caucus dynamics. It was an untenable choice for me either way, so I asked to be excused. Okay, let me translate that for you people who are not wonks in the Washington state legislature like I may be, right? Here's what he's saying. They were threatening me with political retribution, so I got excused from the chamber because I was going to vote no or speak against this bill, and they were threatening me, so I had to get excused so I wouldn't get in trouble with the Democrats. That's not leadership. That is pure cowardice. Now, let's be real about this bill for a second. You think the Trump administration is going to do anything about it? No. You think Congress is going to do anything about it? Maybe Pramila Jayapal will hold it up at some point so she can have a press conference and say, look, we need to investigate this. Israel's evil. And maybe Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and AOC will jump on board. Maybe that's what will happen. At the most. Nothing is going to come for this, so it is pure virtue signaling nonsense. But the Democrats will not even permit a Jewish member like Jesse Solomon to speak out against this. So last night I called him after the show. And when we were speaking on the phone, he was very clear with me that, yes, they were politically threatening him. And I think he wanted sympathy from me. You're not going to get it. You signed up to be a politician. Guess what? Then you're going to get political threats if you're a politician. It's going to happen. If they're real threats, let's go to the authorities. Let's expose it. If they're political threats, let's expose it. Let's talk about it. He didn't want to do that. He ended up hanging up the phone on me when I was calling him out, basically for being a coward, because he got excused from the room and wouldn't speak out against this bill. As you heard from the text, Senator Wagner was counting on him to tee this up so two of them could bring up some points that were issues with the bill. And yet, Solomon left the room. The other one who left the room, Wellman, who's the other Jew on the committee. And they're both not there. It's super easy on Jewish Lobby Day when a bunch of old biddies show up and think they're being engaged in the legislative process to be like, yeah, we're helping the Jewish community. Yeah, we're looking out for you and we're looking out for safety. Real easy to do that. It's a lot harder when a whole bunch of people disagree with you and you have to look them in the eye and say, you are wrong. I know you are wrong. And once again, this is a nothing burger of a bill. It does not affect you at all. Democrats are busy raiding pension funds of first responders and trying to drive up income taxes and may chase away the Seahawks and may make it so that the Sonics are never coming back and make your life more expensive and less safe. This bill has no impact on your life whatsoever. And he couldn't even speak out against that. Couldn't even step up against that. Because why? The Democrats need the virtue signaling. Why is Senator Saldana the one who's sponsoring this bill? Why is she leading the charge? Because she's running for King County Council. And she wants something to virtue signal to the leftist activists in King County. See, I support Hamas. See, I hate the Jews. See, look what I do. Now you should vote for me. Thinking that gets her street credit in King County, and you know what? She may not be wrong. And the Democrats want her to get that position. They want their control in the King County Council. They want to make sure that she is there. So they want to make sure that all these lunatics who are shutting down our streets for 2 years after the worst terrorist attack in Israel's history, so that they'll be happy and they'll vote for her. That's what this is about. So then you get Rebecca Saldana on the King County Council. She'll be sitting there with people like Teresa Mosqueda, Gourmet Zala, who's now the executive, and they'll just do whatever he wants and push forward these far-left policies to make King County worse and worse and worse. This bill may have not meant anything, won't accomplish anything, won't do anything. But it shows the symptoms of the bigger problems. Why is not a single Democrat speaking out against the income tax for real? They're virtue signaling a little bit, trying to make it so that corporations in their district don't hate their guts. But they're all going to vote for it because they're afraid of whatever the Democrats are threatening them with. We're going to primary you. We're going to challenge you. And from what I hear, they keep threatening Solomon with, we may take your seat. But you know what? I get threats all the time. Have I stopped doing my radio show? Have I stopped posting on social media? The threats I get are very, very real and involve law enforcement. Yeah, I get political comments. Big deal. I know what I signed up for when I wanted to be a radio host. I know what I signed up for to be a political pundit. You think you don't sign up for that kind of stuff when you sign up to be a politician? Of course you do. Decisions are made by those who show up, not those who chicken out and won't even be in the room. But the Democrats are so afraid of losing their seat or losing their power that they cave to this far-left radical majority, like Senator Jamie Peterson, who thinks 13-year-old girls should be able to get abortions and sex changes. Like Lori Jenkins, who agrees with him, says the same thing, and then calls anybody who's investigating fraud in her state, even though the allegations are everywhere now, we're a bunch of racists, and falsely claims that we attacked daycare workers. That's who's leading this party now, and nobody is pushing back against them. The Republicans are trying their best, but they're in the minority. There are so few Democrats who are speaking out because they are so afraid of losing their seats in the Washington state legislature, or they may not be able to climb that political ladder. You wonder how all these insane bills can be backed by every single Democrat. Why not one will speak out against them? And this is how. Because they threaten, they threaten, they threaten, they threaten. That's what it is. And they're all afraid of losing power. This is pure political cowardice at its absolute worst. And that's why I took this bill to show you. A bill that means nothing. Now, when it's a high priority of the Democrat leadership, what kind of threats you think they're bringing then? They don't want any dissent whatsoever. You know, the Republicans disagree with each other all the time, but it's, you know what, that's his opinion. Okay, fine. You know what, that's her district. Fine. We understand that. That's fine. But the Democrats will not allow any dissent at all. This summer, the Israel consulate was actually looking for legislatures to go visit Israel. We want to show you Israel so you can see what you're talking about when you go have your legislative discussions of anything that involves Israel. And they were offering trips. Go see Israel, get a few tourism in, get some shawarma, get some schnitzel. You'll be happy. It'll be good. The amount of Democrats who were too afraid to go because they said their caucus would penalize them is horrifying. You're so afraid of your caucus targeting you because you just went to go see the Jewish homeland. You went on a tourist trip. You went on a press junket. They go on these things all the time. If they were going to Ukraine, it would have been like, oh, we celebrate you. And here's something that Senator Jesse Solomon doesn't understand. So let me make sure I got this right. You didn't want the Democrats didn't want a Jewish senator to stand up for a Jewish issue, stand up for a Jew who was killed by a terrorist organization in the Washington State Legislature. That's how the headline should read. But he was too afraid, and he left. He got himself excused because he was too afraid to even be in the room. Anybody can stand up in front of the old biddies on Jewish Lobby Day and say, oh, I'm here backing your issues. Anybody can go to their constituents and say, I'm fighting for your issues. I'm fighting against the income tax, and I'm fighting to keep men out of girls' sports, and I'm fighting for you can say you're fighting for anything, but then when it comes time to actually do it and you don't do it, we know you're completely full of it. We shouldn't be surprised that politicians are full of it. They are all the time. But I am even more happy, impressed with our friends on the Republican side who keep fighting and fighting and fighting, even though the Democrats target them and target them and target them and target them, including on issues where they may be important to me. They may be important to you. May not even be important to them, but they go, these are our constituents. These are the people we're fighting for. We're going to go fight for this issue. Instead, the Democrats are doing everything they can, not for their constituents, not for the betterment of Washington State, but because they want to push their far left agenda and show just how far left they can be. And nobody in the Democrat caucus is strong enough to stand up to them. That is pure cowardice. Because you know what? If they had a rebellion inside their own caucus, the far left wouldn't be leading the charge anymore. So if you ever hear from a Democrat, well, you know, leadership wanted this and the far left's running everything, no. It's because the Democrats don't have the guts to actually stand up to them. And some of you are going to get mad at me for saying this. It's like the teachers' unions. I say all the time on the show, how come we don't have more teachers standing up to the teachers' unions? Well, Ari, there's a lot of us. We're too afraid to speak. Okay. There are other jobs out there. The private schools are exploding, and you could get jobs at those places. You're afraid to speak out against it, you're part of the problem. I speak out every single day. I get death threats every single week. I get other threats all the time because I believe in what I'm doing. I don't give up the fight. There are no moderate Democrats because the moderate Democrats are too afraid to speak out for everything. And that's how you get these terrible proposals. That's how you get these terrible bills. And that's how you get them with no pushback whatsoever. And when people say, where are the common sense Democrats? They are scared. They are afraid. They will not speak out. And because they won't speak out, they're part of the problem. That's how bad this is. And this is a symptom of a bigger problem, where these insane laws, insane bills will continue going forward because nobody's strong enough to say no and stop them, and there aren't enough Republicans because Democrats control basically a supermajority in both chambers. That's the problem we're dealing with right now. And if you want to know how we solve this, you have to make them, get them punished at the ballot box for every single bad agenda item they proposed. For every single bad tax they proposed, they supported. And you have to say it from now till Election Day. And the problem is so many people are so focused on what's going on in Washington, D.C., they're not focused on what's going on in Olympia. They know who's at the top of the ticket. They don't know these little races. They don't know who's running for school board. They don't know who's running for city council. They don't know who's running for judges. You want to get involved in these little races. That's how you get involved. And maybe somebody within the sound of my voice is going to say, I'm going to run for office and challenge them because enough is enough and nobody else is doing anything. And anybody who actually wants to run for office, you can reach out to me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. Speaking of radical lefty lunatics, the new mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson, gave her State of the City address yesterday. It absolutely tanked with the most awkwardness in history. We have some insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. the worst kept secret in Seattle was that the Seahawks were going on sale after the Super Bowl. How do we know this? Because the news broke before the Super Bowl that this was going to happen. And then immediately Seahawks were like, no, we're not, nope, not going to happen. And then guess what? It was happening. Yeah, this is no surprise at all. Today it's official. The estate of Paul G. Allen has begun the sale process for the Seattle Seahawks. According to an announcement from the estate has selected investment bank Allen & Company and law firm Latham & Watkins to lead the sale process, which is estimated to continue through the 2026 offseason. NFL owners must then ratify a final purchase agreement. So you're probably going to have the Seahawks for sure in Seattle for next year, for next season. You're not going to move a team that quickly. The question is, do they stay afterwards? Now, all the taxes we've been talking about this whole time, the jock tax, the payroll tax, corporate taxes, B&O taxes, every kind of income taxes, all this. Whether the Seahawks stay or not, the question is whether or not they can recruit talent. Because what's going to happen is a player is going to say, yeah, I may have signed a gajillion-dollar contract, but Washington State's going to take a bunch of that money from me. I'd rather go play in Florida. I'd rather go play in Texas. I'd rather go play in any of these states. So you're going to have a harder time recruiting talent even if the Seahawks stay. The one thing the Seahawks have working for them about why they may not leave is where would they actually go? Is there a big barren wasteland of football somewhere in this country that really needs a team? I'm not sure. Right now, the Seahawks have British Columbia in addition to Washington State. They got Idaho. They got Oregon. They got a pretty big area. Would they go somewhere else? I think the only thing working for them right now is I don't know where they would actually go. Do you think the Seahawks are going to stay? Do you think the Seahawks are going to leave? Let us know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, the question is, how many taxes is Seattle going to put on the Seahawks afterwards? They've already put so many taxes on so many other corporations around here. They've already put taxes on so many people around here. They're going to do whatever the Washington State legislature did. In fact, some of their bad tax policies were used as templates for the Washington State legislature, like the payroll tax. So Katie Wilson had her first State of the City address. And what's she going to say? We had a Super Bowl parade, and it was great because Seafair ran it. My office had nothing to do with it. We finally cleared one homeless encampment, and the people moved 3 blocks away. So after the show yesterday, I go to watch the speech and the train wreck it's going to be. And I didn't get past the first 3 minutes. I really didn't because it was that bad. So what happens? Katie Wilson's never had a real job before. And clearly her staff isn't very good either because there are ways of making somebody who's unprepared look prepared. When you come out to the podium and you've got a wireless microphone and you're still messing around with the wires and the headset, and then you have to tell them that you can't really see the teleprompter so well, yeah, you guys are the amateur hour going on here. I found out in advance that Katie Wilson, her team originally sent out the invite for the State of the City address without a date on it, without telling anybody when the date was going to be, had to resend it again. Now you've got all these technical issues. By the way, I shared all this on my social media. It's doing gangbusters right now. You can check it out, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on Twitter. But we're going to play for it right now. Now, you got to visualize. Katie Wilson walks out to the podium. She's got the headset, Backstreet Boys kind of microphone. The theater kids all excited. They finally have the lead in the play. So excited. And then they're messing with the wireless pack and everything that goes with it, and then the teleprompter.
Good morning. How are you all doing today? Okay.
Wires.
You ready for this?
Yeah, we're ready.
I don't think I've ever talked for as long as I'm about to talk, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wires.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Where's my script? Oh,
Sorry.
I can't see it.
Can you please? Technical difficulties. Okay.
Can't see my script.
There.
Teleprompter.
Okay, a little bit less. A little bit back the way you came. Back. Okay.
Left, more, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. 45 seconds it took her to get rolling there. 45 seconds of tech problems. This is why I'm glad I got Kevin. He keeps us on the tracks. He keeps the train running on time. That's why I got you guys here. That's great. You guys are great. Okay, you can all point at each other in there. You all do a good job. Thank you. Anywho, this is amateur hour. This is absolute amateur hour going on here. This is just sheer incompetence. You don't believe in doing sound checks beforehand. You don't wire up your mayor with the mic beforehand. You don't say, hey, can you come out and check the teleprompter for a second? Can you look at this real fast so we can make sure it works? I did end up scanning the rest of her speech. It's nothing we didn't hear during the campaign. Oh, we're going to build more affordable housing. No treatment. We're just going to put more people inside and tax a whole bunch of people so that way we can build the affordable housing. And yeah, it's the same nonsense. Oh, affordability, racism, Donald Trump evil. It's nothing you haven't heard before. But this just shows the kids are running the show. And it's going to be worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, you think people aren't looking at this for the World Cup? You know how many logistics go into it? You know how many microphones they're going to be using at the World Cup? But this is who's in charge of Seattle. I guess this is what happens when you're still living off your parents at the age of 43. I guess this is what happens when your mom drops you off from work. I guess this is what happens when mom doesn't dress you anymore. You get mayors like Katie Wilson, or what happens when a city votes for a person who has no job experience whatsoever. You get somebody like this. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Speaking of loony lefties, AOC, is she ever going to recover from this Munich foreign relations disaster that she made while she was talking at a security conference? We'll have the latest details for you on how she's trying to save herself when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. For the last few days, everybody's been talking about what a great speech Marco Rubio gave at the security conference in Munich, Germany, about American exceptionalism, about how we want a strong Europe and we have a strong America, and how if everybody's strong, we don't have problems anymore, and how there are parents. It was really a great speech. We played it for you yesterday. The other thing that everybody's been talking about is AOC's repeated blunders, gaffes, absolute meltdowns, showing how little she knows and how unqualified she is to be president. Now, we know AOC has her eye on the prize, and Democrats were going to put all their hope behind her. The less left-leaning ones were going to pick Newsom. The more left-leaning ones were going to pick AOC. And people are saying, super team, AOC and Newsom, let's put them together. Well, unfortunately, both of them tanked at the security conference in Munich. If you're going to a security conference about international, global security, don't you think you should brush up on this a little bit? And this is the clip we played for you yesterday about AOC's brain breaking when she was asked about Taiwan, showing not only how dumb she is, but how unprepared she is. You can't even memorize a few sound bites?
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Oh, that just gets better every time we play it, doesn't it?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Now, if you think that's where the story ends, no, my friends. Because AOC is now trying to dig herself out of this hole. And she figured, if I go to a friendly media outlet really quick, they can spin for me. So apparently, she called a New York Times reporter named Kellen Browning, who posted on X that she had called him to try and fix this mess. He said, AOC came to Munich to warn about the far right. Coverage focused on 2028 and verbal missteps. She gave me a call. You got to say you're off the record when you talk to reporters, guys. The reporter's post linked to his Monday article on AOC's visit to Germany titled, After First Big Overseas Trip, AOC Expresses Frustrations, in which the Congresswoman argued that everybody's got this story wrong. Do we now? After speaking at the security conference over the weekend, AOC was mocked for multiple statements she made about Taiwan, as well as for saying Venezuela was below the equator. Yeah, maybe you need better fake glasses so you can look smart, because the ones you have ain't getting it done. So she told the Times, everyone's got this story wrong, that this is about me running for president. I could give whatever about that, to be honest. Users on X responded swiftly, according to Fox News, accusing the Congresswoman of attempting to reshape the narrative after facing widespread criticism for her comments at the conference. Quote, New York Times reporter doing his best to spin AOC's awful performance, wrote Red State contributor Bonchi. Just when you go to Munich, but when you go to Munich to a global security conference, you should expect to be asked about global security issues. By the way, I'm actually going to take the side of the New York Times reporter here and say, no, I don't think he's trying to spin for her. I think he's doing something I do from time to time on social media. When you want to rile people up into a frenzy, you just put up what the person said and let the reactions just roll on in. Sometimes you don't even need to give commentary. All this reporter said was, here's what AOC said. She called me. She said everybody's got it all wrong. He didn't say whether or not they had it all wrong. Noah Pollack, senior advisor for the Department of Education, tore into AOC for speaking dumb slogans, even when she's trying to clean up the mess she made by speaking in dumb slogans. Journalist Paul D. Thacker satirized Browning's post and described his article in the Times as a rehab story to make the congressman look better. Here's what he wrote. This is my favorite one. A politician I love went to Munich to denigrate Republicans. She fell flat on her face. She gave me a call. Here's my rehab story to make her look better. Oh, these are great. Kennedy Center President Richard Grinnell wrote, some guy named Kalen is running a PR campaign for AOC's presidential strategy while saying he's a reporter. Pro tip, Kalen, if you use the phrase far right, then AOC is far left. I would completely agree, by the way. Meanwhile, over on the text line, a lot of people are worried that the Seahawks might actually leave. John in Lakewood thinks they would go to St. Louis. Lots of other cities with strong fan bases prepared to welcome them. What, you think they're going to make up for losing the Rams? Here's one where Ernie's reaching out and actually wondering about running for school board based on my opening segment. Ernie, I will help you with the data after the show. Email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. I will help set you off on the right path so we can do this. I mean, this is just the AOC thing. This is just cracking me up. She tried to dig herself out of the hole and made the hole even worse. When we come back, my friends, it looks like yet another domino has fallen on these insane trans surgeries for kids. Another medical facility says they ain't doing them anymore. We'll tell you which one when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Oh, this is a great throwback from here. John on the text line says, AOC sounded like Miss South Carolina at the Miss Teen USA competition in 2007. Funny you should mention that. I think I got that clip right here.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
South Carolina, what's up? Yeah, that also gets this response.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm just excited to use that clip today. So many of you yesterday were asking me from what's that from? Clearly you haven't seen the Adam Sandler classic, Billy Madison, which is where that's from. Meanwhile, in good news, NYU's Langone Health Center said they are no longer doing trans surgeries anymore. In fact, the lefties are freaking out. And one of them, Benjamin Ryan, posted online, according to Manhattan's borough president, a number of New York City hospitals have capitulated in the face of threats from Trump and will cease providing gender transition interventions of patients under 19. Mamdani has proposed spending tens of millions of city funds to provide the procedures. Okay, so let's be clear about this. They already lost a lawsuit. This was last week, right? A lawsuit held the doctor and everybody who did the trans surgery on a person liable because there was no science to back it up whatsoever. Immediately, the American Association of Plastic Surgeons says, yeah, stop doing these things. And then the American Medical Association says, yeah, stop doing these things right away. We've already had hospitals across the country saying, yeah, we're not doing these because hospitals hate lawsuits. They don't like them. Malpractice insurance. They don't like any of that kind of stuff. So yet another one is shutting it down. Let's be real. This never should have happened. What's the Hippocratic Oath? Do no harm. Can somebody tell me how cutting off perfectly healthy parts of an anatomy is helping somebody out? If there is a mental health issue, you address the mental health issue. You don't start giving a person physical problems to address the mental health issue. Does it feel like all this nonsense is finally collapsing? Does it feel like it's all done? Well, now even Disney, one of the wokest corporations on planet Earth, is putting an end to some of this stuff. According to the Post-Millennial, Orlando's Gay Days, which have been a long-running LGBTQ-themed tourism event at Disney World, have been paused for 2026. Why are we doing this at a kids' theme park? Why are we talking about sex at a kids' theme park? I don't care if you're gay, straight. I do not care. Why are we talking about it at a kids' theme park? The pause comes as there has been mounting pressure related to the LGBTQ activism event that usually takes place on an annual basis in and around Disney World to mark Pride Month. Quote, after careful consideration, we have made the difficult decision to pause the Gay Days Orlando event scheduled for June 2026. Changes to our host hotel agreement, the loss of key sponsorship support, and broader challenges currently impacting the LGBTQIA plus events nationwide made it impossible to deliver the experience our community deserves. I think this is more the sponsorship aspect. Sponsors were bailing on the Pride parades last year when Trump had barely been in office. You remember the one around here? Needed another $250,000, and I don't think they ended up getting it. I think they ended up rolling back parts of the parade. Maybe it's just people are tired of all the nakedness in the streets. Maybe people are tired of the, well, for lack of a better word, fornication and all the other weird fetishes you see on display on the floats at these parades. You want to march around in a flag and be prideful? Sure, go ahead. But all the other stuff that comes with it, when you're holding up on a pedestal sexual acts, why are you surprised when people start doing the sexual acts in the middle of the street? We used to have laws against doing this kind of stuff out in the middle of public. I don't care which direction you're going in. But now apparently you can do them wherever you want. Why are you doing them at a kid's theme park, by the way? They added, this is a pause, not an ending. For more than 30 years, Gay Days has been built by and for our community. Our focus is now on reimagining the future and returning with a stronger, more sustainable event. Maybe don't do it at a kid's theme park. Just an idea. The announcement comes as many large identity-based events across the country face a lack of sponsorship dollars, rising production costs, and a corporate climate that has become more cautious about taking part in identity politics. You mean the free market is doing what the free market does? And the free market is saying, yeah, you know what, people just don't have an appetite for this nonsense anymore. We're going to stop it. After some online spoke about the potential cancellation of the event, a spokesperson for Gay Days said in an email to the Washington Blade, "At this time I'd like to clarify, it has not been canceled. We are clarifying our details, finalizing our plans for 2026, and we'll be making an official announcement later this week." That's now we're getting it from our other constituents, and now we got to figure out how to save this event, or everybody's going to call us bigoted or racist or Trump supporters or whatever they come up with next. Why are you doing it at a kid's theme park? Plenty of other places to go. Why do they always want to put the sex stuff on display in front of kids? That's an issue I think a lot of people have to address. Something we should really be talking about, why they feel the need to do this for a captive audience, especially children. John in Auburn says, Ari, did AOC graduate from Kamala's Word Salad University with honors? I think she actually founded the university. I think we've been having more AOC word salads than Kamala Harris if we go way, 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 way back. So, yeah, we'll have to check that out. Maybe we should bring back Deep Thoughts music, but use it for AOC when she goes to security conferences. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, insane crime stories from our area. Democrats ain't doing anything to address it. We'll tell you what's going on. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Oregon businesses are going bankrupt at a massive rate. Our Washington businesses next. But before we get to any of that, I got this fun email during the break. It's from a friend, Paul, who says that some of these gay events are going too far. Ari, love the show. Even my wife enjoys it. Won't quite admit it, but has 570 programmed in her car radio. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We used to attend the Seattle Men's Choir events at Better Royal Hall as a holiday treat. We went for numerous years, but it just got too openly gay for the performance. I don't need to see two men acting out a skit in bed while a Christmas song is playing. I am far from being a prude. Right. We all grew up in the generation with the Police Academy movies and Porky's and all that, right? It's not about that. It's about, I go for the choir. I go for the singing. I don't need to see the rest of this. Long story short, we quit going. We voted with our wallet. Yeah, that's exactly what happened with the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir. You remember this little ditty they were singing?
We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep him from disco, warn about San Francisco, make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children, we'll make them tolerant and fair.
Yeah, I remember when that stuff first came out. Look, I was in choirs. I'm a theater kid. Did all this stuff. Was in chamber choirs. Was in a cappella groups. Did all that stuff. We never did anything like that. Then again, there were girls in my choir, too, so it was a whole different thing. But, yeah, people will vote with their wallets. They're going to stop going to businesses. The big mistake of corporate America was even weighing into this kind of stuff. By saying, yeah, we're going to put up this flag or that flag and not this one and not that one. Guys, just sell sneakers. Or just sell T-shirts. Or whatever the case may be, you don't need to weigh in on everything. Really, during 2020 was when the real pressure movement was being brought on everything. Why don't you have a black square? Why don't you have this square? That's one of the reasons I hated that Super Bowl commercial about the blue square thing, that nonsense about, hey, let's fight against anti-Semitism with our blue square. I don't need a blue square. We got the Israeli army. I don't need a blue square. What kind of nonsense is that? Speaking of nonsense, by the way, here's a good one. A lot of you sent me this before the show today. Puget Sound Energy sent out a flex notice today. What's a flex notice? A bunch of our friends had these thermostats installed where they figured, oh, we're getting this incentive, we're getting these rebates, isn't this great? But you gave control to Puget Sound Energy. So anytime Puget Sound Energy thinks that there's going to be a weather event, they send out one of these flex notices that says, oh, it's really hot out. Sorry, you're not going to have air conditioning. Oh, it's going to be really cold out. Sorry, you're not going to have heat. Or my favorite is when they say, don't plug in your electric cars. Wait. Didn't you guys just spend a whole bunch of years telling us to buy the electric cars? Now you can't charge them before an emergency where there may not be power because you're worried about overloading the grid. These are the same people who want to ban natural gas, by the way. So for those of you who don't live in our area and are listening from elsewhere, they are expecting freezing temperatures tonight and tomorrow, February 19th. We're not a weather show, but that's what they're expecting. So tonight, before you tuck in for bed, make sure all your hose bibs are covered. Make sure all your outdoor water is turned off. You don't want to have any pipe breakages. Do the usual things that you do. And if you have a Flex account, or if you got this Flex notice, your thermostat may be turned down. They're asking everybody, please join your neighbors in reducing energy usage tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So you mean at the times when everybody's home, kids are home from school, everybody's got their devices out, everybody's watching TV, everybody's cooking dinner, everybody needs the heat on in the house because it's getting cold. Reduce your energy consumption, please. Why don't you? Well, everybody, could you do that for us? Could you make sure to do that? Yeah, we're going to be California. We keep having energy policies like this. Unbelievable. Yeah, going to be below freezing temperatures. But, turn down the heat. Why don't you? Could you do that for us? Could you now? Ugh, criminals around here. They charge us more and more and more for energy, and it's less and less and less reliable. Speaking of criminals, by the way, this, according to the Olympian, a woman who allegedly sold marijuana to minors under the name Mama Green has been released from Thurston County Jail without bail. Let me make sure I got this right. If you sell drugs to minors, you can be released with no bail whatsoever. Sidrida Lynette Green, 57, attended her preliminary appearance in Thurston County Superior Court on Thursday. The Thurston County Narcotics Task Force and Lacey Police arrested Green, her 2 adult children, and 2 other associates Wednesday following a months-long investigation. The Olympian reported that the arrest occurred at a home near the corner of College Street and 40th Lane Southeast, which is just northwest of Rainier Vista Community Park. Law enforcement alleged she sold controlled substances, cannabis and vape products to children as young as 13 years old. We'll just call her Granny Ganja, Granny Pot. During the investigation, detectives documented over 150 juveniles entering her residence on an average school day. That's according to the Lacey Police Department. 150 minors were going in and out of this house to buy drugs every day. Wow. Wow, our society's just doing great these days, right? A search of her home and the defendant's cars yielded a vast amount of evidence, including marijuana, mushrooms, drug paraphernalia, over $24,000 in cash, multiple firearms, and more. I love Washington. I love our state. Prosecutors accused Green of the following crimes: 4 counts of distribution of a controlled substance to a person under 18, 5 counts of unlawful delivery of a controlled substance, unlawful possession of controlled substance, marijuana with intent to deliver while armed with a firearm. Don't threaten me with a good time. Unlawful possession of controlled substance, cyclamin, with intent to deliver while armed with a firearm. You should see the table, by the way. It looks like the Oriental trading of drugs and money here. It looks like, yeah, and guns. Holy cow. I want some of those guns. Those are some pretty good-looking guns I see there. The suspects have not yet been charged. If prosecutors do charge them, their arraignment is expected to be today. In court, even though they found probable cause, released her without bail. No problem. So she's probably back to selling right now. Meanwhile, kids come home from school. Somebody may have seen this article. Parent goes, I know you've got pot, don't you? Kid goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who Miss Granny Ganja is. Well, how do you know her name is Granny Ganja? Billy did it. It's Billy. Billy goes there all the time. That's what. Oh, there's no justice here. No justice here at all. It's just, yeah, criminals can do whatever they want and go free. No problem whatsoever. Apparently, she has a previous criminal record. First-degree forgery in a 2006 Georgia case. On Thursday, bail was set at $10,000, about $15,000 for one of the other co-defendants. But, released without bail, no problem. Just get on out of here. Nobody's ever held responsible for anything they do, right? That's like how a Kansas prolific offender ended up shooting at the Seattle Police Department just a few days ago. A 62-year-old Kansas man has been charged after prosecutors say he shot at the Seattle police officers during an encounter Thursday evening in Ballard. Do you remember? We were talking about this on air, I believe. So what happened was we got reports of an officer-involved shooting, and immediately the left goes crazy, all the anti-cop people. They go absolutely bonkers crazy. The police, they're killing random people. It must be ICE again. They're shooting random people. I said, can we wait? See the facts. Well, on Friday, King County prosecutors charged Christopher Michael Bowman with assault in the first degree and assault in the second degree. Both charges include firearm enhancements and law enforcement aggravating factor, which means he targeted police officers, which could increase the standard sentencing range if he is convicted. According to charging documents, the first-degree assault charge alleges that Bowman shot at Seattle police officer Jonathan Lupestein with the intent to inflict great bodily harm. The second-degree assault charge alleges he assaulted Officer Bailey Pearson with a handgun. Prosecutors have requested that bail be set at $3 million, citing concerns that Bowman poses a significant danger to the community. They also said if bail is posted, he should be placed on electronic home monitoring. Why does he get bail at all, given the fact that he's a prolific offender from out of state? At 5:07 p.m. on Thursday, an 18-year-old woman called 911 to report that her ex-husband was following her in Ballard. She told dispatchers he typically carries a pistol. The woman went inside a QFC on 24th Avenue Northwest to wait for officers. Police records indicate that officers learned Bowman had an active extraditable warrant out from Kansas for violent crimes, including rape, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated robbery, and criminal possession of a firearm. Hours later, officers spotted Bowman near Northwest 62nd Street and 28th Avenue Northwest. According to investigators, Officer Lupestein exited a fully marked patrol vehicle, identified himself as police, and ordered Bowman to remove his hands from his pockets. Authorities say Bowman instead pulled out a handgun and fired. Now, before you say, well, Ari, that's the officer's account. We don't trust law enforcement, for all the lefties who listen to the show, there's video. There is video of all of this. Yes, this is why I say we should have body cameras everywhere. Body-worn camera show that multiple shots were exchanged between Bowman and officers. I actually posted the video up to my social media channels. You can find it over there. Bowman was struck during the exchange, fell to the ground. Officers secured the scene, kicked the handgun away, took him into custody. The firearm was described as a semi-automatic handgun with one round in the chamber. Officer Pearson later reported that something struck her knee, which investigators believe may have been shrapnel from rounds impacting a patrol vehicle. Bowman was transported to Harborview Medical Center for treatment of injuries sustained during the incident and remained hospitalized at the time of charging. Prosecutors say Bowman has an extensive out-of-state criminal history dating back to the 1990s. Court filings indicate prior felony convictions in Kansas for rape, attempted aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, criminal possession of a firearm, trafficking contraband in a correctional institution. I don't even want to know where you were hiding it, dude. He also has first-degree robbery convictions in Missouri, along with misdemeanor convictions that include assault on law enforcement officers and violation of a protective order. Also, he's a convicted felon. How did he have a firearm? Wow, those gun laws in Washington really doing wonders. Stop people from having firearms who shouldn't have the firearms, right? Yet another prolific offender out on the streets. Hang on. Oh, come on. These are just isolated incidents, are you right? Saturday morning, Seattle police arrested a 29-year-old man with a history of assaulting police and multiple active warrants after authorities say he caused extensive damage inside Harborview Medical Center's emergency department, set a fire in a trauma room, and assaulted nurses and security guards. I remember when we've had to spend Sabbath or a Jewish holiday in a hospital and we have to light the Sabbath candles, they really frown on that. Don't light fires in oxygen-heavy environments. Don't do it. That's bad news. Patrol officers were called to Harborview in downtown Seattle at around 10:15 a.m. after receiving reports that a patient was trashing a trauma room. That's a direct quote. When officers arrived, the room was already in disarray. That's an understatement, by the way. It appeared that almost everything in the room had been thrown around or tipped over as staff and security were fighting with the suspect. Investigators say hospital staff restrained the man after he allegedly broke open a direct oxygen line. You know that's how Apollo 1 exploded, right? Then ignited a bucket filled with medical equipment. The damaged oxygen valve allowed fresh oxygen to flow into the room. Security and staff intervened, as an active fire in the room with a broken oxygen line could cause an explosion within the hospital. Oh, you think? Wasn't that a time somebody flipped on an MRI machine and there was an oxygen tank in the room and it sucked in the oxygen tank because the MRI machines are magnetic and drew the metal to it, and then the thing exploded? Police said the man had come to Harborview the night before with wrist injuries. After receiving treatment, being cleared for discharge, he became enraged, officers wrote, and began throwing items while spitting on and kicking nurses and security guards. He also fashioned what police describe as a makeshift noose from plastic tubing and threatened to kill himself. The suspect was arrested on multiple counts, including assault, arson, property destruction, interference with a healthcare facility. Hospital staff estimate the damage at more than $100,000. And according to most recent updates, that room is going to be out of commission for a long time. Could be as high as $250,000. Authorities also said the man is known to be assaultive with law enforcement, had several active warrants at the time of his arrest. Under armed police escort, he was transported by ambulance and booked into the King County Jail, where I'm sure he's already been released by some lefty judge because somebody didn't hug him as a child, right? Right? You want to know how much the Democrats think about this? You know how Bob Ferguson is always saying, oh, he cares about public safety. Katie Wilson is saying she cares about public safety, but both of them do everything they can to demonize police officers. On Monday, and this is a new low bar even for Democrats, the Washington State House Democrats voted to raid $4 billion from the law enforcement and firefighter pension plan to cover their deficit caused by out-of-control spending. Democrats in the Washington State House of Representatives have approved House Bill 2034, authorizing the transfer of approximately $2.5 billion with projections of up to $4 billion over time from the Law Enforcement Officers and Firefighters LEOF Plan 1 retirement system. The legislation passed 55 to 39, with every single Republican voting against it. Let me say that again. Every single Republican voted against it. Now, something fascinating here about this is, why are they raiding this specific plan? Well, if you look at the details that were described by unions that represent law enforcement and represent firefighters, this pension plan has outperformed all other pension plans because they did a good job with it. They did a good job with stewardship. And Democrats can't have that. So they go, okay, so because we've been very bad about our spending, we are going to come raid your pension plan that you did a good job with because you were too successful. See, Democrats punish success evenly. Doesn't matter if you're a corporation, doesn't matter if you're a union. If you have too much money and they want it, if you're a millionaire, even if you're a poor person, the government is going to come and take it. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So basically, you're being penalized for being too successful with a public pension fund for first responders. You guys haven't done enough to first responders. Now you're going to raid their pension plan. This is disgraceful. Their justification, well, you did so well, you don't need all that money, so we're going to take the extras. And you guys keep what you need, but we're going to take the rest. That's their logic. That's their justification. The next time Democrats say they're pro-law enforcement, you raise your hand very, very politely, and you say, then why are you defunding their pension plans? Why are you raiding them for your out-of-control spending? See, this is the dirty little secret that we talk about all the time, and later in the show we're going to talk about it with Mamdani. Eventually, you run out of other people's money. You can raid whatever you want. You can tax the billionaires, they're going to move. You can tax the millionaires, they're going to move. You can tax the corporations, they're going to move. And eventually the normal people like us will be out of money. They're going to come after us because they don't have all those other people to tax anymore. They are literally raiding the pension fund of their own first responders because they were too successful with the stewardship of that pension fund. If they can do that, they can do that to anybody, my friends. And speaking of places that are now having financial problems, when we come back, my friends, Oregon businesses are going bankrupt at a scary, scary rate. Is this about to happen in Washington as well? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just before we take that trip down the left coast, looks like I touched a nerve with that story about the pension plan being raided. Got this text over here from Rob in Port Orchard. I wondered why they didn't raid the teachers' union pension. Yeah, because you don't antagonize the very people that are your supporters that are doorbelling for you, right? Right? Also, where do you think this money's probably going? Oh, who knows what they're going to spend it on? They may be spending it on trans surgeries for convicted felons. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Craig in Puyallup. Craig, what's going on, man?
Well, as a retired firefighter, you summed it up. Somebody touched a nerve.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I didn't do it, man. It wasn't me. Don't kill the messenger, okay? I'm just telling you guys so you can yell and scream at them, okay?
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting for the dust to kind of settle to figure out what's going on. But we ain't happy. And
did you know about this before I said something?
No, I did. Yes, I've known for several days.
Mm-hmm.
And, I probably could have known beforehand. Some folks are Jewish, some are Catholic or Protestant, some folks are Union. They live and breathe it.
Sure.
And I'm not that guy. So this pops up, and I'm like, great. And I'm not old, but I'm not young. And is this going to affect me? Probably not. But I've got a son that's got several years in the fire service.
Yeah.
Just started out.
Yeah.
Is it going to affect him? Because he's a pretty young guy. He cannot get out until he's got to spend years in there. It's not a young man's game. You get to a certain age, and you're like, whoa. What about the guys and gals and men and women that follow him? They're hiring people all the time. People age out, and off they go. And what I've got is, I worked hard. I put money away. So if I had deferred comp, would this be like me taking somebody walking up and going, your deferred comp did pretty good. We're going to take this much money out of it.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. I might need it. But I'm not. I'm worried about the others that come behind me and my son. And if I would pay close attention to the union stuff, I probably would. But I don't. I mean, they took care of us. We had good working conditions. We had good equipment. So I'm grateful for that. I mean, there's horror stories from decades and decades ago about firefighters that were killed on the line of duty at a fire. Mm-hmm. Wife comes to get the last check, and the chief said, "We don't pay dead people."
Yikes!
So things have come a long ways, but this is money the guys that came before me put away.
Right.
There's people I know that, they worked hard in worse conditions. And, oh, boy. And this is the first time. What's next?
Right. And here's something else. What happens when we do a story 5 years from now, 10 years from now, which says, hey, this thing is broke. And then we come back and trace it back to they've been rating it and rating it and rating it and rating it. And here's something else. I just found out about this last night, as a matter of fact. There's so many bad bills and so much trouble they're making in Olympia. There's no way anybody can cover all this by themselves. This is why I wish we had a media that actually did it. I found out about this last night.
If you had press credentials, you could get in there.
I see what you did there. Very clever. Why do you think they don't want us having the press credentials? Because then
there you go.
We're going to be reporting on this. And they didn't want anybody reporting on the no good stuff they're up to. So I'll put this out there. Craig, I'm going to use you as an example. The next time you hear about something like this, do me a favor, drop me an email, ari@kvi.com, and be like, hey, Ari, did you know this was happening? Would we only have known about it 3-4 days earlier, like you said? Sure, but we would have known about it 3-4 days earlier. Our phone lines just blew up with people who want to confirm which pension fund it was, which one I'm talking about, because they didn't know, and there are people who draw from the pension fund. So this goes for any industry.
One, it's called.
I'm sorry?
It's called Left One.
Left One.
Law enforcement officers, firefighters.
Exactly. This goes for any industry.
Left One.
Right. Anytime.
Yeah. And they've done a magnificent job of managing it. So I guess you get punished when you do well.
Yeah, well, that's the Democrat way, right? I mean, that's why they're chasing out all the businesses and everything else. Craig, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate you explaining all this to our listeners. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Now, it's not just businesses they're punishing. It's also the pension funds. But could Oregon be a cautionary tale of what's going to happen to Washington businesses. I just saw a story about a restaurant right there out in Westlake Center that is closing its doors because of the construction in the area. Yeah, I love how they decide to do that construction to make Westlake Square, the area where everybody protests, that little area with the fountain, to clean that up right in time for the holiday season. You guys couldn't wait until now to do that? You guys couldn't wait until before, I don't know, sometime after the holiday season to do that? No. So now you've got restaurants over there closing. This story from the Oregonian, more evidence of the growing strain on Oregon's economy. Business bankruptcies jumped 25% last year. It's their highest point since 2013. Bankruptcy filings are up all over the country among consumers, small businesses, and corporations. They say that the increase in bankruptcies reflects the convergence of economic stressors that continue to weigh on consumers and businesses. High interest rates, inflation. Then they say geopolitical upheaval. In Oregon, you know what I'd be more worried about causing it? The homeless guy out front, who's the reason that customers don't want to come to your restaurant or business anymore. Maybe that has something to do with it. In fact, the guy who closed the restaurant in Westlake was saying it wasn't just the construction, it's also the riffraff. Have you noticed the riffraff getting a lot worse around here recently? I was telling you yesterday about my little walk over the Starbucks at Seattle Center. Holy cow, they're coming out of the woodwork. When I'm driving to work now, when I'm driving home at night, that's when I really see them. Kevin, I don't know if you're seeing them when you're going home at night, when you're seeing the riffraff out and about. I'm definitely seeing them when I'm going down Fifth Avenue under the monorail because they're usually behind the columns, and I almost don't see them until it's too late over there. You having these same problems too?
No, because I usually just take Mercer.
Oh, so you're just on the freeway and you're out of here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just to I-5.
Pretty much. And Mercer's kind of a main kind of I think there's some bike lanes further down on it. So there's not really a whole lot of places you just linger and hide and camp out.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of the riffraff. In fact, in my neighborhood, there's now tents right at the border of my neighborhood and Rainier Beach, that now they're setting up over there. And what's weird is there's no services or anything. They usually weren't in my neighborhood. They were usually nearby, somewhere else. Now they're in my neighborhood. Everybody's seeing them across from the 76 station. And, of course, everybody calls me. Because if there's one thing we're known for on the Ari Hoffman Show, it is demonizing the homeless. And they say, Ari, what do we do? And I said, nothing. Welcome to Seattle. There's nothing you can do. I said maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease, where if you annoy the city enough, they just don't want to deal with you calling anymore, so just keep calling and calling and calling. That's one way to deal with it.
We used to have encampments around the golf course, Jackson Golf Course, which is just a little north of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because they have a maintained trail that goes all the way around it, and so there's kind of some wooded areas.
Yeah.
And there was 2 encampments in there for what, but that was years ago.
So we have it up by Jefferson Golf Course. I've noticed the homeless are moving back in. They were gone for a little while, but I'm near Jefferson Golf Course, which is in my area. RV, because what's next to Jefferson Golf Course? The VA is right up there. So there's a whole line of the RVs there near the medical center. Welcome to Seattle.
RVs have been out of my neighborhood for a while now. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how that is, how they choose areas and leave areas, and I don't get it.
Well, usually they go where they're not going to be bothered, right? And they go, okay, this is happy hunting grounds. We haven't destroyed this area yet, and nobody knows we're here, and they're not going to bother us here. So that's where they usually go. Or in Ballard, you just go 2 blocks away from where they swept you out last time, and you're good to go.
The Safeway in my neighborhood, they put those big concrete barriers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So there was quite a line right behind the Safeway of the RVs, but they put those in, and they haven't come back.
I don't know anybody who used to do that in Georgetown. They would put them out front of properties. Those things just spontaneously appear.
Yeah.
As if falling like manna from the heavens, my friends, right there to block the art. Those things just come out of nowhere sometimes.
It's like evolution. It
there
starts popping up.
Yes, the ground is learning. The concrete is learning how to grow these giant cinder blocks. Amazing. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Democrats still haven't learned that kids are dying because of their bad policies. Representative Travis Couture joins us to tell you what they're up to now. When we come back, you're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. As I said yesterday, my friends, Democrats love dead children. There is no way around that. Some of you, turns out, got pretty mad at me for saying that. You're like, I'm a Democrat and I don't love dead children. I go, then why aren't you talking to the Democrats about saving children's lives? It's that simple. If they continue to have the Keeping Families Together Act, which is allowing children to stay in the homes with drug addicts, with people who cannot take care of themselves, it leads to child deaths, and the numbers are off the charts. Joining us now, the man who's been fighting most against all this, Representative Travis Couture. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Ari.
I said yesterday some very kind words about you, is how passionate you are about this as a former Navy guy who's talking, on the verge of tears about how these children are dying, and yet the Democrats don't care about this at all. You were very optimistic about this passing at the beginning of the session. What changed behind the scenes?
Yeah, it just turns out that, I had Democrats who were jumping on in support because the numbers are undeniable now. We have to do something. The critical incidents, the child fatalities, near fatalities. I mean, hell, Ari, every other night I feel like I could turn on King 5 and watch toddlers being Narcaned in our streets. That's wrong. We have to fix this. And I had a lot of Democrats. I felt like if I could bring a bill to the House floor that I had some Democrat votes that I had kind of whipped over the course of the last year to help try to fix this, the imminent physical harm part of the Keeping Families Together Act, which prevents removing kids from those fentanyl flop homes. But unfortunately, I ran out of all the options. I tried everything. I tried everything conceivable and then some. And I even tried things like this eighth order motion where you do this rare procedural trick to rip dead bills out of committee and pull them right to the House floor to vote on them. And unfortunately, all the Democrats lined up and voted no to do that. And that was kind of a Hail Mary attempt. I tried it 3 times. I pulled my own bill. I pulled Tom Dent's bill to the floor, and I even pulled Alicia Rule's bill to the floor, a Democrat bill that touches the same subject, so that we can vote on it and work on it and amend it and fix this so that we can save these kids. And as you know, I'm pretty emotional about it. And I don't think that there's a whole lot that's more important here in Washington state than protecting kids who are dying in their homes of fentanyl and other hard drug abuse. It's wrong, and we got to fix it.
I completely agree with you, but while you were talking just now, it triggered a few other conversations that I've had and am having right now, where when I was down at the legislature a couple weeks ago, some of your colleagues were telling me how Democrats would vote against their own caucus, their own party, and then they would declare a brief break, they would take them outside, and then all of a sudden they would come back in and vote with all the other Democrats. Is it just they don't want any opposition? They will not tolerate anybody voting with the Republicans? Even on something like this, they refuse to admit they're wrong. What do you think's going on behind the scenes with the Democrats right now?
Yeah, last night, we call it the 5 o'clock bill, right before the 5 o'clock cutoff. They always run this big bill. Their big priority bill for like the House Democrat caucus. And we actually killed that bill last night. It was a terrible bill that would have ended juvenile detention as we know it and would have early released very violent juvenile offenders into our communities. So we were able to kill that last night. And so we're starting to peel off more and more moderate Democrats, but like on things like with the eighth order motions for the Keeping Families Together Act stuff and trying to pull those bills to fix the imminent harm to the floor, oftentimes what frustrates me here is that you got people that agree with you, but then they choose their party. They choose party politics and they choose to line up with their party and stop Republicans from fixing things or stop even people in their own caucus from fixing things. I mean, I pulled one of their own members' bills to the floor and they all lined up to vote no on their own member's bill. And even Alicia Rule voted no on her own bill. I mean, I just don't understand that. We had a great chance to just sit down and fix something. It didn't mean you passed the bill right off the floor at that moment. It just means you pulled it to the floor and then you could work on it and then pass it. And we had a whole another 24 hours to do that at that point. And it was kind of a Hail Mary, but honestly, people need to start choosing people over politics. They need to start choosing doing the right thing over their political parties. And I know for some that doesn't always sound popular if you're kind of ingrained in the political party system, but there's a lot of things that we need to fix, and some of it's not left or right, it's just right or wrong. And this is one of those issues that's a right versus wrong issue. It's wrong to leave babies and toddlers in their homes to die when their parents are smoking fentanyl around them. That's just wrong. I haven't met anyone except for a handful of extreme radicals in the legislature here or in Seattle that actually agree that we should continue to do that practice. Everyone else across the state is raising the alarms. And what's sad, Ari, is that if we gavel out and we don't have a miracle happen between now and the end of session, we'll just watch the fatalities rise throughout the rest of the year until next January, when we finally get another chance to fix it again. And they just don't believe, some of the people here, some of the Democrats just don't believe that there's anything wrong. They totally believe their confirmation bias, and they think that, this is not the government's fault. It's not the Keeping Families Together Act fault. But the data is abundantly clear that it is. And so it's just devastating to me. I feel really devastated. I can't even go back and watch my own speeches on the House floor about that subject because it chokes me up. I feel my portion of responsibility for what happens to those kids, and I just wish everyone did the same.
Yeah, and it seems like right now, any of these kids that die, it's on the Democrats because they're choosing party over saving the lives of children right now. It's beyond ridiculous that everybody knows this problem is happening, and they refuse to do anything to fix it. In the last few minutes we have with Representative Travis Couture, I hate to pivot from life and death over to fiscal stuff, but from what we were talking about with the Democrats always choosing each other and choosing their own party, I think there's no way that any Democrat votes against the income tax because it seems like they're just going to threaten them until they can say, oh, yeah, we're all on the same team, we're all on the same page. I don't think there's any way you're going to see any defections, and I know some people are holding out for a miracle of some kind in the House. I just don't see it happening. If they won't break ranks to save children's lives, I don't think they're going to do it over an income tax.
Yeah, I think that right now what you're seeing a few Democrats saying, I oppose this, Addison Richards and Larry Springer, a few others, right? And even Bob Ferguson, as it passed the Senate, said that he didn't support what the Senate had just passed. But this is all smoke and mirrors. It's just so that they can carve in a few extra little things and shift the goalposts a little bit so that then later they could say, look, we fixed some of the problems, and then they could go fix it. But the problem is we have a spending addiction in this state. We have a record budget, record revenues, and we keep spending on unsustainable programs and things government shouldn't be doing. And instead of cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse and bloat out of government programs and agencies. And we don't need an income tax. We just had our revenue forecast, and it was up, actually. And the reason is because all those new B&O taxes they passed last session as a part of the largest tax increases in state history, in order to get that increase in revenue that the budget writers here really like, we had to crush business to do it. And that is unsustainable. We're at like peak Laffer curve. We're falling down the Laffer curve right now, where you start to see diminishing returns because you've taxed too much. And everyone in my community, I just had my assistant tally up all the emails I got from my constituents on the income tax alone, and it is 90% against the income tax in the 35th district. And I would expect that it's probably similar everywhere else. And this is a false promise. Nobody believes that it's going to be on the rich. And as a matter of fact, it carves out the most rich in the mega tech corporations. It's the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen. And the only thing we're supposed to get out of this is that we have tax-free deodorant. I mean, maybe we need tax-free deodorant because this bill stinks.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you're right. I think it's not, the 75% that just registered con for this income tax. I think it's actually a lot higher than that. Those are just the people that found out you could even register or knew to register. Representative Travis Couture, appreciate you fighting so hard for all of us here in Washington. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Ari. Appreciate you, brother.
We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio. I like that I was ahead of the curve on disliking Tucker Carlson before anybody else. Did I think that his social media presence would be huge? Absolutely. But I never liked him.
Oh, I promise you I disliked him well before you, my friend. Well before you.
I think that's fair. I really didn't like him with the bow tie or anything else. I really didn't like him on Fox. And now I'm proud to say that after Mr. KVI, I was probably one of the first in our world to dislike Tucker Carlson. Well, Tucker Carlson is in Israel today and apparently needed a little social media attention, where there is a story from the Daily Mail claiming he was detained and mistreated at the airport. Okay, for anybody who's been to Israel before, having an Israeli ask you security questions does not mean you're being mistreated. That's just Israelis, okay? All right, look, I have been asked some ridiculous questions when I go to the airport in Israel. Maybe Tucker's not used to it because having just come off a plane over the weekend, TSA around here is a joke. It's an absolute joke. In fact, I have a story I'm working on. One of our listeners sent me a tip about TSA literally not doing their jobs when there was an actual security theft event, at SeaTac Airport. We're following up on that right now. We're checking out what's going on because it's like a legit security concern, which somebody sent us, and wouldn't you know, they're not getting back to us. So now we have to start filing for documents. So let me explain what happens when you go to Israel. When you fly out of any airport, there are El Al security people. They know TSA doesn't do its job. So when you check in, you don't get to just beep the thing and go on through. No, you don't get to auto check it and download it to an app. Absolutely not. Here's what happens first. First, when you book the ticket, they know who you are. Just ask Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. They know. They stop you before you even get to the airport. Then, next, you're at the airport. You got to go up to them, and you think you're just checking your bags. No, my friends. No. Do you have anything you're bringing for a friend? Did anybody give you anything? Have your bags been in your possession the entire time? Who do you know in Israel? Why are you going to Israel? They ask you all these questions to trip you up. That's what they do. They're not looking for the bomb. They're looking for the bomber. So, this is what's going on here. Then, once you get past that, then you go through TSA, and they know that's nothing. Then you have another check before you even get on the airplane. Then when you land at Ben Gurion Airport, you have another check. More of these questions. Are you bringing anything in? I'll never forget this. It was right before COVID. COVID was breaking out around the world, but they weren't closing things yet. And I remember I went to Ben Gurion. I was going there to visit my son, and the only question they asked me, have you been to China recently? No. Okay, have a nice day. I mean, that was the only thing they cared about. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. Here, I'll tell you a story about El Al security. So I was not the best kid when I was at a gap year in Israel. So we stole shot glasses, all right? And back then they were made out of lead. So I put them in this box to bring back to the U.S. They drilled the box. I didn't get my suitcase back for days. Why they drill the box? They have lead in them. So it looked like a pipe bomb because you have all the shot glasses in this box. They thought it was a bomb. They drilled my suitcase and my box and my everything, and I got it back in little bitty pieces. They do security differently. Tucker Carlson did an interview with Mike Huckabee, U.S. ambassador, at Ben Gurion Airport. I think this was set up the whole time. Wouldn't you go to the embassy to do the interview? Wouldn't you go to the embassy and have the little talk with him? I know the embassy, big, beautiful building. Go check it out. Go see Israel. Tucker Carlson was fishing for this. He wanted to create this problem. In fact, Huckabee says, in response to this fraudulent, false report, everyone who comes in and out of Israel, every country for that matter, has passports checked and routinely asks security questions. Even me, he says, going in and out with diplomatic passport and diplomatic visa. So can we not do this nonsense, please? I see a whole bunch of people on my side of the aisle going, look what they did to Tucker. Look what they did. Guys, Tucker Carlson's mad. He got asked a few questions. My guess is Tucker Carlson, who can't shut up about Israel in any of his episodes, that he just didn't like the questions he was being asked and said, let me get some attention. Did we trigger you, Tucker? Are you a little melted snowflake? You're a little mad. You got asked a few security questions. I'm sorry it's not TSA. Here's my impression of TSA these days. Some minimum wage worker stands there. You're in the wrong line. Nope, that's pre-check. Nope, that's general screening. Nope, that's clear, right? That's their job. That is their whole job. Just to check your thing, not to make sure you have a valid ticket, but to see what label it has on it. Then you get to the person. Can I see your ID? We're going to take a picture of you. We swear we're not keeping these pictures for any surveillance purposes whatsoever. We swear they're deleted right after this. We swear. Oh, yeah, and walk on through. Then it's, do you have ketchup on you? Do you have a liquid? Did you bring contact lens solution with you? Did you bring a water bottle with you? No water bottles. They're very dangerous. We need to make sure you buy them from the Hudson News in the airport. That's why we need to take away your water bottles. We need to take your shoes off. Grandma, take your shoes off, Grandma. Grandma, let me see your cane, Grandma. You got a baby? We need to frisk that baby. We gotta check that baby and make sure that baby's not a terrorist. I'll never forget my wife and I flying when we had our first son. And it's our first big travel. So we got the diapers and we got the formula. They went through everything on that poor little bugger. Every single thing. Do I look like a security threat to you? Do I really? Am I looking like that? Hey, this is an argument for racial profiling. We should go back to racial profiling. We'll be much better off. It reminds me of that scene. I think it was in Airplane 2. Not the first airplane. I think it was the one in space. When you see the terrorist walking through and they're carrying guns and they're carrying all the weapons with them. They're carrying a bomb. And then they just go through security. And then an old lady goes through security. It beeps and they throw her up against the wall and start frisking her down and holding guns on her. That's what our modern security is like. So did Tucker Carlson get a little mad? You know how intense the Israeli security is? Every time we go, they ask my wife if she wants citizenship because they know that her grandmother used to be an OG Palestinian, and by that I mean Jewish living in Israel. She's got that passport. That's how extensive their records are. By the way, if they ask you, are you bringing anything for a friend? Never say yes. Never, ever say yes. My father-in-law likes to tell the story about when he was leading a trip to Israel one time of a bunch of teenagers, and he said, okay, guys, before we go there, when they say, have your bags been with you the whole time? Don't say that they've been out of our thing while we were hiking and whatever today. You say yes. First kid in line. First kid. Have your bags been with you the whole time? No, we all left them on the bus the whole time. He says they made the flight with like 3 minutes to spare. He says they were going to be closing the door because they pulled everybody's stuff off, searched every single bag. Oh, Tucker Carlson can't handle it. Oh, little baby get upset, little triggered by the Israelis, asking him a few questions. I feel your pain, Tucker. Not really. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including how the Seattle City Council is virtue signaling on ICE. We'll tell you what's going on, that and your calls when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. Streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Seattle City Council is trying to limit ICE, but it's purely virtue signaling. And the Department of Justice is suing Harvard yet again. But before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the protester. Bennett, I think I know what you're calling about, but before that, I have to tell you what happened after you got off the phone yesterday. Yesterday, people were asking if you are tired dating in the liberal world, that you're offering your resume here for dating. Do you not want to date the purple-haired people?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I mean, I wonder if it would make for more interesting conversation across the table if you're talking to somebody with generally opposing views. But that's a very different question for whether that could be a foundation for building a long-term relationship. Because there are people, I know a lot of people say they like talking to somebody who disagree, but I think there's plenty of data showing that, like, for long-term building a partnership, you want someone who agrees with you on, you know, the initial spark that comes from sharp-spirited disagreements. It doesn't translate to, like,
are you saying Paula Abdul was wrong and opposites don't attract, Bennett? Is that what you're saying? You're shattering my worldview right now.
I'm worried what somebody would think is the opposite of Bennett if you just like made a list of traits and flipped them all.
What's on your mind today, man? What's going on?
All right, so I did go to the Federal Way City Council meeting yesterday, and I played the clip from your show when you interviewed Councilmember Melissa Hamilton, and she was talking about, you know the backstory where. So
hang on. Let me catch up the audience. Let me catch up the audience so everybody's on the same page. Otherwise, it's just a private conversation between the two of us. I'm going to let you finish, just like Kanye. I'm going to let you finish, but hang on. So what happened was last week we got word that the Federal Way City Council president had been ousted from being president, and Bennett called at the time because I was reading a flyer that he had posted that if you wanted to read it one way, it sounded like he was asking people who want to be involved in a protest to DM him. If you read it another way, it sounded like he was asking kids to DM him, because the overall thing he was posting about was encouraging kids to be part of these protests. Councilmember Hamilton called the show to clarify that what they were upset about at the time and why they ousted him was not about the protest, but that they had warned him repeatedly to stop using city resources for this kind of stuff. Now that everybody's caught up, go ahead, Bennett.
Okay, well, let's catch people up a little bit more, because what she devoted quite a bit of time when you were talking to her, that she was really asserting that he was inviting minors to message him about the process and saying that that was very inappropriate. She staked quite a bit on that, and that's why I went, and when I called the show, I actually read what he said. I'm proud of the young people for using their voices, and I stand with them. If you'd like to join them, please PM me. And I don't think it's a 50-50 thing at all. I think that's very obvious that that's addressed to adults in the community, saying, if you'd like to join, because there wouldn't make any sense to tell a student about it. If you're a student in the school having a walkout, you just go join the walkout. You wouldn't need to coordinate with him with anything. But they do want.
So hang on a second. I'm going to push back a little bit here, Bennett. I'm going to push back a little bit, okay? I truly see your perspective, but can you see how somebody else would read it a different way? I see what you're saying, but you're making some assumptions. I see this and I see how somebody can go, is he asking kids to do that? That's a little weird. Do you see how somebody could think that?
I mean, I'm trying to be fair-minded here. I've read it, and I don't get that sense at all. It's very specifically the pronouns he's using. If you'd like to join them, please PM me. And
Bennett, you might have more experience with pronouns than we do over here on our side of the aisle.
Are you saying that dating these purple hairs is crazy to think that way? Okay.
Okay, so you went to the council meeting. You wore a tie. You sent me the video. I watched the video. You didn't have your sign with you. You wore a tie. You look so business professional over there, Bennett. You look like you had and you were clear and you were concise and you made a legit point, and it looked like they stopped you in the middle of it.
Well, okay. So to that point, yes, Mayor kept calling me out of order, but he said that you are not allowed to refer to specific council members by name. Like, not that you're not allowed to talk to them, but you're not allowed to make a statement about what a council member has said or done. And at the end, he said something like, if you have a statement about a particular council member, just say a council member. We're all smart enough to figure out who it is. That's really weird. To say that you're allowed to make public comment referencing an action by a council member. I mean, obviously you have to be polite and not wildly inflammatory, but for them to say you can't reference a thing that a particular council member did, that's just really strange.
I agree with you.
They don't have any rule like that at Seattle or Bellevue.
Well,
People
by the
go
way,
to the mic all the time.
I agree with you. If you're polite, it's one thing if you go and you blah, 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 and you drop a whole bunch of F-bombs and names. That's one thing. Like, there's a couple people who show up to these council meetings literally to do that. There's one guy who Sieg Heils them all the time. He's crazy. But you're right. You were not doing that at all. You were literally just talking about an interview she did on the show.
Right. And I did basically what I did just now, which is like I played the clip of what she said on your show, and then I read out the text of what Councilmember Moore actually said in his Instagram post. And apart from the mayor kept calling me out of order. So if people can want to look up City of Federal Way meeting videos, this is all on YouTube, and then you just fast forward to the.
But hang on, Bennett, I'm kind of missing the plot a little bit here. Okay, so. Let's say you disagree with the council member, and let's say you go the testimony, and let's say they even agree with you on it. What are you hoping to accomplish here? Do you want the president back? What were you actually advocating for? That's what I don't think I understood.
Well, if I'd had slightly more time at the mic, I was going to say that the last thing I said at the mic at the time was I would invite Councilmember Hamilton to retract this portion of the accusation. And if I'd had more time, I would have said otherwise. I think this rises to the level where other council members should vote to either issue a statement distancing themselves from this or even like a formal admonishment using whatever procedures they have. It doesn't take a person's seat away. You can't kick somebody off the council. But this was really, really over the line to my mind. She was accusing him of trying to solicit inappropriate messages from minors.
Bennett, hang on a second. Hang on 1 second here, okay? Let me just do this a second here because I think we're losing the plot a little bit. This guy was removed because he was using city resources. In the interview, and I'll go back and listen to it again because I was actually going to cut it up tonight and post it on social media so people can watch the whole thing when you sent me the clip of you doing the interview, is that the thing that I took away from this was they had warned him repeatedly not to use his private stuff. I think that you and I can both agree if you're warned repeatedly, not to use the public resources to post political stuff. Can we both agree on that you shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah, and what I said in the remarks was, I understand there are two different issues here, and I'm not speaking to that one. And in fact, I believe that two things could be true at once. One is that it's possible his use of public resources for partisan politics might have all by itself reached the threshold where they could make the argument for removing him from the presidency. But number two, separately from that, it is still wildly inflammatory and false for her to accuse him of soliciting messages from minors based on the text.
Yeah, that's where I disagree with you. I think it can be read either way. I'm agreeing with you. I hear your point. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not discounting your point. But I'm a little surprised that you're not even seeing how somebody could read it the other way because a lot of people in the comments did as well, if I recall. I could be wrong about that. I remember seeing something about that at the time before we did the interview, but I would say it goes either way. I would say, Bennett, if you're there to testify about something like this, it should be, well, how come you can't use the public resources for that? Or any other number of things. I think you're being very nitpicky on this one small little thing here.
Well, I don't think it is a small thing. One of the things I said in the comments was, if you're a guy and if you're accused of two things and one of them is soliciting inappropriate messages from minors, nobody's going to remember the other one.
Oh.
And that's why it was so important that they should to either make her take this back or ask the other council members to issue a statement saying we do not agree with this inflammatory thing that she said.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, I hear the argument. I'm not discounting your argument. Usually I just, shoot you down or whatever it is, but I'm not discounting your argument here. But I appreciate the call. I always appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate the fact that you wore a tie today. I'll try to get that video online tonight, if not tomorrow morning. Bennett, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Speaking of these protests that are happening at schools, 2 Enumclaw High School students were arrested last week during one of their anti-ICE walkouts after reportedly assaulting people. Okay, can we go through the amount of things we've had happen? We've had these stolen items from grocery stores, including ice that they have thrown at cars. We had an assault, and now you've got 2 arrests happening here. According to Cairo 7, 2 Enumclaw High School students were arrested Friday during a student-led anti-U.S. immigration and customs enforcement walkout after reported assault and confrontation involving dozens of protesters. Now, this is the one you may have seen on social media. I didn't have Kevin clip the audio because every other word needs to be censored. And it would just be a whole series of bleep, bleep, bleeps. These kids, man, wash their mouth out with soap. My family kind of makes fun of me. I'm a little prudish with regard to the language. Kevin's like, you? Yes, I actually am very conscientious about my language at home. Maybe it's because my wife and my kids cuss like sailors. I don't know what that's all about. I get it. It's not my jam. Whatever. Anywho, these kids are just cussing and cussing and cussing. And then when one of the girls gets arrested who allegedly did the assault, she's crying, I want my mommy, and stamping her feet like a little toddler. Enumclaw Police Chief Tim Floyd said officers were alerted when a man reported he was assaulted, showed police video of the suspect who was described as a 17-year-old girl. Man, I don't know if I'd admit that, by the way. Got assaulted by a 17-year-old girl. Anyway, officers recognized the suspect from the other contacts we've had with her. Whoa, 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 whoa. So she's got a track record of doing this? As the officers moved toward the crowd to take the juvenile female into custody, she saw them and took off running. That's when a small scuffle took place in the middle of the road, and a second female student tried to pull the assault suspect away from officers. A social media video showed the crowd of protesters following police as officers walked the 2 students to jail because the jail was across the street. Just because you're involved in a quote-unquote peaceful protest doesn't give anybody a free hall pass to commit violence, the police chief said. And the lack of maturity that was being displayed took it from just a First Amendment protest to speak your mind to a confrontation that became a crime. He's 100% right. The first student was arrested for assault, resisting arrest, and obstructing a law enforcement officer. The second was arrested for obstructing a law enforcement officer. Both were later released to parents because the suspects did not meet the booking criteria for the King County Juvenile Detention Center. You know, Kevin, we both have friends that when they were younger, they will say, I got arrested, that was stupid, but it scared me straight and I'm never going back to jail, right? We have friends like that.
Sure.
Including radio hosts that did one 6-hour jaunt in the jail and then said, I'm never doing that again. I'm going to drive more responsibly. Sometimes, sort of, right? This is, there's no repercussions whatsoever. You just get to go home to your parents. That's it. Cool. That's it. You're just encouraging this stuff if the kids know they can get away with it. In fact, even when they're not juveniles anymore, they just get released and released. We had the guy from Kansas. We had the guy who tried to burn down tried to blow up Harborview. This is how you allow this behavior. It's nonstop. About 100 students left Enumclaw High School during the demonstration. Those who walked out were marked unexcused. Quote, there's a lot of inaccurate information being shared, and we want to be clear about what happened, the district wrote. What's unclear? The video's there, and 2 kids were arrested. What's unclear? Police are reviewing other videos of the incident and said more charges could be coming for other people involved. Here's something else. It's Enumclaw. Tame place. It's not downtown Seattle or downtown Portland. But it's like Lord of the Flies. Just release the kids and see what happens. This is what's going on. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Meanwhile, the Seattle City Council wrote a new code to align with the Keep Washington Working Act, a.k.a. the law that made us a sanctuary city, which limits data used in ICE actions. The truth is this whole thing is entirely virtue signaling. Why is it virtue signaling? We're already a sanctuary state. Legal or illegal, we're already a sanctuary state. You have to follow state law. And as a result, what you guys are doing is already the law. Councilmember Maritza Rivera, who represents District 4, prohibits all city employees from sharing non-publicly available personal information for use in the enforcement of civil immigration laws unless required by law or a court order we already have. Don't cooperate with the authorities. This is really just a new city council trying to show how virtuous they are. The measure codifies Washington State's Keep Washington Working law, according to Como News, and amends the Seattle Municipal Code to provide clearer guidance on information sharing. State law trumps local, trumps state, trumps city, excuse me. So what are you doing here? You're not accomplishing anything. Instead, this is just virtue signaling. That is all it is. Oh, we want to show we're the most anti-ICE. No, we're the most anti-ICE. Yes, you're all Spartacus. You're all Spartacus. I saw this article from the Seattle Times. It made me nauseous. Talking to your kids about ICE activity, experts share 6 tips. Experts say that parents should keep several key things in mind while discussing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement activity with children, whether this is a first-time conversation or not. You know what you do when you talk to your kids? Listen to law enforcement. Law enforcement officers put their lives at risk every day to keep us safe. Deserve our thanks and support. How about that? It's that simple. How about we do that instead? Nowhere in this article is anything like that. This is your daily reminder to unsubscribe from the Seattle Times. You save money, which you can use towards gas or groceries, and you don't fund the left-leaning media that is out to destroy Washington State. Why would you continue giving them your money? Why would you do that? Hey, who wrote this article? Oh, the Education Lab wrote this. Is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? I forget which nonsense lefty funds which nonsense column in the Seattle Times. Stop giving them your money. We can break them, by the way. You know how I know that? Outside the window, right here from my studio to the left, there's this giant globe on top of a building here in Seattle. Do you know what that globe is? It's too expensive to take down. It's not the Daily Planet, my friends. That's the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. The Post-Intelligencer was a newspaper here in Seattle, and people stopped reading it. So it closed. They were always the more left-leaning outlet. I have a friend. He collects the last edition of newspapers when they close around the country. He really enjoys doing that. That's his shtick. He asked us to send him one of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. That is the first and last time I ever bought an issue of the Seattle PI. So, you want the Seattle Times building to just have that lettering up there? There's a store in Israel. It cracked me up. I said, how do I know that place used to be a Blockbuster? Because basically the ticket is still there and the yellow and blue is still there. They just changed whatever names in the middle of it. I would love driving past the Seattle Times. Where is it? Denny? Mercer? It's one of those streets over there. I would love driving past the Seattle Times building where I see the faint outline of where it used to say Seattle Times. Yeah, I would love that. Make sure you unsubscribe from the Seattle Times right now, talking to your kids about ICE. Here's our 6 tips. How about you talk to them about respecting law enforcement? Why don't we do that instead? Speaking of your kids, by the way, when we come back, the Department of Justice is suing Harvard again. We'll tell you why, because, you're not going to believe it. Harvard's doing everything they can to go against the federal government. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. even after the Supreme Court said no more of this affirmative action garbage in admitting kids to college, Harvard seems to still be doing it. According to the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, they filed a lawsuit against Harvard on Friday, alleging the school unlawfully withheld admissions-related information that federal officials say they need to determine whether Harvard is complying with a federal civil rights law following the Supreme Court's 2023 decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus President and Fellows of Harvard College. In the complaint, the government says it opened compliance reviews in April of 2025 covering Harvard College, Harvard Medical School, and Harvard Law School to assess whether the university continues to discriminate on the basis of race in admissions in violation of Title VI and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title VI bars race, color, and national origin discrimination in programs receiving federal financial assistance. Reverse discrimination is still racism. Reverse racism, still racism. The word reverse doesn't change it. It's still racism and discrimination. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement, under President Trump's leadership, this Department of Justice is demanding better from our nation's educational institutions. She added that Harvard has not provided the data the government requested and said the department would continue pushing for merit over DEI across America. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who leads the Civil Rights Division, said the department would not allow universities to refuse to provide the information required for federal review, calling cooperation a basic expectation of any credible compliance process. Dillon said Harvard's refusal to share data raises concerns and argued that if the university is complying with the law, it should happily share the data necessary to prove it. Sounds a lot like voter rolls, doesn't it? In the lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, it accuses Harvard of repeatedly delaying, narrowing its responses to federal requests. According to the complaint, the Justice Department sought the documents and data it says are necessary to evaluate Harvard's compliance. What do you think? You think Harvard's still breaking the law? My guess would be yes, by the way. This sounds like totally something Harvard would continue doing. Meanwhile, that's not the only crazy story we have here. KTU teachers and staff at Mark Morris High School in Longview, Washington, are now under fire for not taking an alleged sexual assault by a student seriously. Now, you may recognize the details of the story, but finally the mainstream media is reporting it. Those of you with kids in the car, you may want to earmuff them for this one.
We can't really say much when we're in the school because they'll try and quiet us down and take us back to our classes.
High school students in Longview walking out of class today amid allegations of sexual assault. They claim a student was assaulted in a locker room and say the school isn't doing enough to keep kids safe. Over the weekend, the principal sent a letter to families calling these allegations false rumors.
K2's Shelby Slaughter joins us live from the high school now. So, Shelby, you spoke with students and families today.
Yeah, Deb, in that letter to families, the school principal says these rumors can cause great harm. But when you're talking to these students, they say they just want accountability. Mark Morris High School students protesting all day on Monday, saying their principal didn't do enough when a classmate was sexually assaulted last week. What do you think the school could do to make this right? Actually do something about it. Multiple students and parents tell me the assault happened in a locker room. They say those responsible are already back at school. Now they're asking for accountability.
A lot of the people here are scared to speak up because the perpetrators have been going to our videos and telling us that we need to stop and that we will be next if we continue speaking up.
In a letter sent to families over the weekend, the principal kept details of the incident vague, writing there was behavior that violated our school expectations. He also wrote that they've done a thorough investigation, given appropriate consequences, and followed WIAA guidelines. We have worked closely with the students and families involved.
People have to take a stand, and we got to fight back.
Kathy Seenard's grandson goes to this school. She tells me she's appalled by how the school addressed this incident and says her grandson is nervous about going back to class.
Do you think the school is handling this properly?
No.
Why?
Well, from what I hear, the boys got 3 days suspension.
I asked her about the letter sent to families over the weekend. She tells me it's not enough.
The last line I want to read to you here, it says, "Thank you in advance for reassuring your students that Mark Morris is a safe place."
Obviously not. It's not safe when a child's getting sexually assaulted in your locker room. You know, I'm sorry, but they need to educate these educators more on what to do in situations like this.
And I did reach out to the Longview Police Department, and I was told the school is handling this internally and haven't requested police involvement. Reporting live in Longview, I'm Shelby Slaughter, K2 News.
Shelby, thank you. Now, anyone with information about risks or potential risks to the safety or well-being of kids in Washington can call the number on your screen. And kids can also text Hear Me WA to 738-477. You can also make a report online by visiting hearmewa.org or through the app. Anyone can file a report. You are able to file anonymously.
Now, there is reportedly video of this incident. And something that bothers me about this is that, let's say it all happened exactly the way these kids are saying it happened. Let's say it all went down. And the school never informed law enforcement? Never even called them in to investigate? Investigate doesn't mean somebody gets arrested. Investigate means let's find out what happened. You remember the Washington State Legislature was trying to make it so schools wouldn't have to tell parents if something happened to their kids on school property for 48 hours so they could circle the wagons? This is what, the second, third case this week of a school not talking to law enforcement. If there's nothing to them, let law enforcement investigate and say there's nothing to it. You want to make sure these kids are safe. If it's some awful prank gone awry, you know what? You still have to deal with it. It sounds like the school may be attempting to cover it up and not contacted the police as required in this story. You guys are first mandated reporters. You are mandated reporters. That means you mandatory are required to inform the authorities of something like this happens. It is mandatory that you report it. How many times have we heard about them not reporting it? It's like the story out in Puyallup, where last night parents showed up to the Puyallup School Board to say, wait a minute, there was a girl who was wrestling against a boy who identifies as a girl. She reported an assault, a sexual assault. His hands were somewhere they shouldn't have been during the wrestling. You guys didn't do anything until our friend Brandy Cruz reached out and asked for comment. Then you go, oh, crud, Brandy knows about it. We better call the police right now. How many other incidents do we not know about because some school is covering it up, because some teacher is covering it up? If you have a story like this that you want us to shine a little daylight on, send it over to us, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. We get our best tips from our listeners. Shoot it over to us, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. We'll be more than happy to take a look at it for you. When we come back, my friends, Zoran Mamdani looks like really, really quickly is backtracking on a lot of his policies because it looks like he's running out of other people's money already. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you got closed out of Stake of the Union, you got to sign up to become a KVI Insider, so that way you don't miss out on our event announcements. Head on over to KVI.com right now. Enter your email address to become a KVI Insider. We don't spam you. You just get KVI news. We don't sell your email address either. So make sure you sign up to become a KVI Insider, and that way you won't miss out on the next event. So this weekend, when I was in L.A. with my daughter, and we were taking the backlot tour of Universal Studios. Those of you who've been on the tour before, you know they have like the old West Street and the Roman Coliseum Street, depending on what they're filming, and they have the New York City Street. On the New York City Street, there were piles and piles and piles of fake snow. And it was dirty, nasty, like it had been sitting there for a while. And I said, wow, they're really going for the New York look, giving everything that's happening in New York right now. Zoran Mamdani failed his first test as mayor. His first test as mayor was, there's a snowstorm coming. They didn't get enough people to shovel, to plow, to remove the snow. The way it works in New York is first, the garbage trucks and plows come by. Garbage trucks have the plow attached to them to be extra snow plows. And they pile it all off on a side, but then you've blocked in all the cars and the garbage trucks can't get through. So then you're bringing these snow removers. Well, the problem was they plowed a lot of this stuff. It froze, and then it sat there. And then people said, well, what am I supposed to do with my garbage? It's garbage day. I don't know if the garbage guy's coming out, but I can't keep it in my house. So they throw the garbage outside, and it piled up and piled up and piled up and piled up and piled up because the garbage trucks couldn't collect the garbage. Then the rats came, and the rats started eating the garbage. Now you know what they're finding underneath all the snow as it's melting? Poo. There's poo everywhere. I don't even want to know the physics of how this happened. Zoran Mamdani's socialist utopia, not off to a great start. So it sounds like the warm embrace of collectivism isn't really working out that so well. According to the New York Post, 96% of pleas to help homeless New Yorkers never actually led to any assistance during the deadly cold snap that hit the Big Apple, with city workers unable to even find the destitute denizens most of the time, according to the Post. The stunning struggles, I love the way they write articles, revealed by 311 data came as the city's medical examiner testified Tuesday that at least 15 of 18 deaths during the deep freeze were directly related to hypothermia. City council members grilled outgoing Department of Social Services Commissioner Molly Wasso Park and Zach Iskol, the city's emergency management commissioner, about the deaths in a hearing over Mayor Zoran Mamdani's administration much criticized response to the life and death weather. These deaths are not inevitable. They are the result of gaps in outreach, shelter capacity, mental health services, and follow-up, said City Council Speaker Julie Menon as the marathon hearing kicked off. Iskol and Park, both holdovers from Mayor Eric Adams' administration, who are slated to soon leave their posts, argued the prolonged cold since the January 24th winter storm created additional dangers for homeless New Yorkers and additional problems for city officials to solve. The 311 data analyzed by the Post reveals the difficulties that responders had trying to locate homeless people amid the bitter cold. The city's 311 system received 1,183 complaints for homeless assistance. In 72 of those cases, or 850 times, homeless service workers couldn't find the person related to the 311 call. For another 250 times, the homeless person refused services from the mobile outreach response team, which apparently took no for an answer because Zoran Mamdani has his new policies where, well, if they say no, just say no, don't get them off the streets. Amid the troubles, because, the drug addicts and people with mental health can make the best decisions. Amid the troubles, the city shifted the responsibility for calling to report homeless people in need away from 311 on January 31st, handed the job over to 911 operators. Mamdani had repeatedly said publicly that all calls for homeless New Yorkers would be transferred to 911 since the cold weather descended on the city a week prior. Park said the city had been under a code blue until January 31st, meaning many of those calls only went to 911 between the overnight hours of 4 p.m. and 8 a.m. The alert was changed to an enhanced code blue after the point, with all homeless assistance calls going to a 911 operator. The delay drew criticism from council members. In deep freeze situations, we have to take code blue seriously because time is of the essence when lives are on the line, said council member Phil Wong. The fact that it took nearly 2 weeks to redirect urgent code blue calls from 311 to 911 is deeply concerning, and we need faster action to protect vulnerable New Yorkers. So what was it? A total of 19 people died because of Zoran Mamdani and the warmth of collectivism? Is that what it was? Yeah, 19 people died. See, you can make all the promises about socialism and collectivism you want during a campaign, but at the end of the day, somebody needs to fix the potholes. Somebody needs to make sure the homeless people are brought inside during a cold snap. I haven't seen the usual vans going around Seattle dealing with that, and apparently it's supposed to be below freezing today and tonight, tomorrow. It's supposed to be below freezing. I haven't seen the news reports of all the warming centers that they open up. And now, Bruce Harrell wasn't really good at this, but he could follow the city's manual for it. But people like Katie Wilson believe, no, let's just leave him on the street. Let's just leave him there, right? That'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. Mamdani is doing something else, which is really stupid, by the way. So, mass transit in New York, big mass transit system, decent mass transit system, plagued with financial problems because it's so badly mismanaged. So, they have a lot of financial problems that are always raising the rates. Well, now Mamdani wants to test free bus programs during the World Cup. Okay, don't you know the deal? You get all the money out of tourists when you're in your city. You don't give them free stuff. Why are you saying you want to give the tourists free bus rides? This is as dumb as what we do around here. Oh, Taylor Swift is coming to town. All these businesses are going to make all this money. You know what? We don't need it for sound transit. Let's just keep taxing people. Let's just keep making sure we spike their car tab rates higher and higher and higher. So let's give all the Swifties free transportation. Oh, wait, the All-Star game is coming to town? Let's do free transportation. Oh, it's New Year's Eve? Let's do free transportation. Oh, it's a day that ends in Y? Let's do free transportation for everybody. What a dumb idea. So you're going to try this out during the World Cup. Well, congratulations. New York's about to have a whole lot more mobile homeless encampments. Do you remember during COVID, the pictures from the subway that were on the cover of local newspapers? Where, because they were instructed not to sweep out homeless encampments, people were building homeless encampments on mass transit. They were building it down in the subway. Remember some of this insanity? SeaTac Airport. SeaTac Airport had homeless people living in the baggage claim at SeaTac Airport. Yeah, I've seen it other places too. I've seen it at LAX. I've seen it at JFK. This is not something new. I saw it during COVID also. Saw the homeless people living at SeaTac Airport. This is what we're going to do. This is the warm embrace of collectivism. That's where we're going to put you. Oh, by the way, Mamdani is now unveiling his new plan to tax New York City homeowners to fund all his insane social programs if Kathy Hochul doesn't give him more money. So basically what he's saying is, hey, I don't want to tax you, but I want all that money from the mayor, which she taxed you, because I don't want any of the blame for this. So if she doesn't give me the money I say, I'm going to blame her, and then I'm going to tax you. It sounds a lot like extortion. Hey, Kathy Hochul, you glad you endorsed Zoran Mamdani? You glad this is working out real well for you? Sure, let's endorse the socialists. Let's see how it goes. I'm sure that'll make your far left really happy. He's the gift that just keeps on giving, isn't he now? This is just working out fantastically for you. Yeah, warm embrace of collective death, says Rob in Port Orchard. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into the evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And our first good news story comes from the War Department. That's right. What began as a routine patrol in the Anacostia metro station quickly turned into a heartwarming reunion when soldiers assigned to the 170th Military Police Battalion, Georgia Army National Guard, helped return a lost puppy to its grateful owner on February 9th. Army First Lieutenant David Akanofua, a military police officer supporting the D.C. Safe and Beautiful mission, was patrolling the station alongside Army Sergeant Michael Waller, Army Staff Sergeant Cesar Serrano, and Army Staff Sergeant Martinez when a mother and child approached the team. It was one of those moments where everything feels normal, which made the situation stand out when we were flagged down. Holding a small white puppy, the woman explained that the dog's owner had left the puppy on a transit bus, and they were searching for help. They were actively seeking assistance, said one of the soldiers. Their urgency and body language made it clear that something wasn't right. Waller and the other soldier immediately jumped in. The patrol team took custody of the puppy, ensuring it was safe and cared for, while they worked to locate the owner. The soldiers provided food and water and carried the puppy with them as they coordinated with the station manager and contacted local animal rescue resources. Community members also joined the effort. Pedestrians shared dog treats and food. The community helped out, and being diligent really helped us care for the lost animal. I have dogs at home, so we know how to treat dogs. We're dog people, Serrano said, laughing. It was a nice, cute little puppy, very sweet. Didn't bite, very friendly with everybody that walked past. About an hour later, a woman arrived at the station, asking if anyone had seen a small white dog. After verifying details, the soldiers reunited the owner with her pet. She was very relieved, said one of the soldiers. The dog was also very happy to be reunited with its owner. She thanked us. We shared a few words before she left with her puppy. Akanufua emphasized that this moment exemplified the broader purpose of the mission. Quote, our mission goes beyond just security. It's about protecting people, property, and even animals. Helping reunite someone with their pet builds trust and shows that we care about the community we serve. For Waller, the experience was a reminder of one of the many reasons soldiers put on the uniform. It's not every day you get to be in uniform and be a hero making a difference. When you're actually doing it, it does feel good. I like those kind of stories. They're sweet. This one here, good news from the Olympics. American speed skater Jordan Stoltz set an Olympic record on his way to a gold medal in the men's 1,000-meter race last week. Stoltz went head-to-head with Dutch star Jenning de Boo toward the latter part of the event, finishing first and second, respectively. China's entry, Zhongyan Ning, according to Fox News, won the bronze with a time of 1 minute, 7 seconds, and 34 microseconds, or whatever they call those. America finished at 1:06.28, setting a new mark for the Olympics. DeBow finished with a time of 1:06.78. Stoltz entered the event with a 1,000-meter record already in hand. He set the mark in 2024 in Salt Lake City with a time of 1:05.37. It's the first medal for Stoltz and what could be a major boon for him at the Milan Cortina Games. He'll take part in the men's 500 and 1,500-meter races and the men's mass start later in the games. With his performance in the 1,000 meters, Stoltz could very well come away with a few more gold medals around his neck. Stoltz first completed in the Olympics when he was just 17, didn't come close to reaching the podium in the 2022 Beijing Olympics. But now, look at this. He's on track for more gold medals. 4 years appear to have made a world of difference. Since then, the Wisconsin native has won 6 gold medals in the World Single Distance Championship. I got a question. How many of you out there are actually watching the Olympics this time around? I'm watching the clips on social media. I'm not actually watching the Olympics, though, to be fair, I never really watch the Winter Olympics because I'm at work. Summer Olympics, you know, you got some time off when you're a kid. You may watch the Olympics a little bit more. Guys watch the girls' gymnastics. I don't know anybody who does that, right? I don't know anybody who does that. Meanwhile, I got this story here from Como News. It was a case of the right people being in the right place at the right time. On Tuesday, a member of the King County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit, Mercer Island Police, were conducting water rescue training at Fish Lake in the Cascade Mountains when a man fell through the ice right in front of them. We saw a guy out of the corner of our eye walking back and forth, and one of our guys says he just went through, said Sergeant Rich Barton, who works with the Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. The team had just finished their training exercise, but was still in their water rescue gear and had their equipment with them. My guys were falling in the ice trying to get to this guy, Barton said. The estimated water temperature was 35 degrees and the ice conditions were poor. Rescuers spread out their body weight on the thin ice while trying to reach the man. They used rescue devices to secure him, then pulled him to the dock with the assistance of an additional team member. Barnes said the man had 2 friends at the lake with him, which he fears if the rescuers hadn't been there, the friends could have fallen through the ice trying to reach him. We could have had 3 potential victims who could have perished yesterday, Barton said. According to the sheriff's office, the man was taken to a warm cabin where he changed clothes and was evaluated by medical personnel and then was able to drive home. Barton said if the team hadn't been there, it likely would have taken around an hour for emergency responders to reach the man and begin rescue efforts. Right time, right place, said Barton. I mean, if we had not been there, you would have been reporting on a different outcome. What do you mean? I saw that latest Mission Impossible movie. Tom Cruise went to the bottom of the ocean out of a tube of a submarine, basically naked. And the cold water preserved Tom Cruise so he survived and could cuddle with Haley Atwell. That's how all you got to do is get more Haley Atwells, and then you don't have to worry about people getting hypothermia. You just snuggle them with Haley Atwell after they get shot out of the submarine torpedo tube, and you're fine, right? You could be down there, the pressures of the ocean on you, no problem, buck naked except for the underwear. You're going to survive. You saw that movie, right?
Which, sorry, because I've got many people coming in and out of the studio.
Yes.
Is this a Fast and the Furious?
No.
This is the Mission Impossible?
This is the most recent Mission Impossible, right?
That was a great scene, though.
It was a great scene, but the submarine at the bottom of the ocean and Tom Cruise freezing to death, really cool to watch, but then you have questions later. It's one of those scenes. Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
But it's Tom Cruise, man.
He's fine. He can survive any. There was this video going viral over the weekend of Tom Cruise on top of a train because he was filming one of the Mission Impossible movies, and the train was just going by. I don't know why this video took so long to come out, but yeah, it was out with Tom Cruise surviving perfectly fine. No problem whatsoever. Yay, Tom Cruise. What is he, like 65 now or something and still doing that? Man, I got to get to a treadmill. I can't hang off of airplanes. Though then again, would I ever really want to hang off of airplanes? That's going to do it for us today, my friends. Fear not, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests, plus more good news. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.